Hello everyone, ASMR developer here, and today I will be talking about Go programming language. In one of my previous videos I somewhat mentioned about Go when I was explaining pointers, and today I want to give you some overall explanation and some code samples and about Go. Go is developed by Google, and it's been used by many companies since then. One of the reasons why according to the authors of the language, one of the reasons why they developed Go in the first place is to have a speedy compilation times. They were using C, and it was taken 45 minutes to compile their projects, which is really bad in fact. So a lot of companies, actually developers, don't like the process of compilation if it takes too much time. So they decided to address that by developing a new language that uses a different compiler. The good thing about Go is it's like a higher level language to C, but it works anywhere. It doesn't have any runtime. That means you don't have to install anything on any computer as long as you compile your code to the right architecture, which can be like AMD for Windows or for a different architecture for Mac and so on. And it is really easy to compile it, honestly. But today I'll just give you some code samples and I'll walk you through how to write code in Go. And okay, let's start. And also, I'm using my mechanical keyboard, which has kind of louder sound compared to mushy membrane keyboards. I hope it gives you a kind of a relaxing moment, and you can write your comments below if you want to learn more about it, or if you have any questions so I can answer. And sorry for that, I don't have much time to record videos these days. I'm kind of busy, so but if I get enough subscribers or whatever, I'll try to do my best to make videos. Alright, let's begin. So I'm using Visual Studio Go code application to develop Go programs, and you can install extensions to it. Right now I'm using Go extension that can be found within this tab, this place. When you click on that, it activates the extensions that you can download, search and download, which is really easy. And the Go extension will give you auto completion and syntax highlighting, and also some formatting and static compilation and all those things. And yes, Go is a statically typed and a compiled language, which means you can't unlike like PHP or Python, you have type safety during compile time, and that allows you to eliminate any mistakes between, like, for assigning incorrect types to different variables and so on. Anyways, let's go ahead and write our first small application. So any Go file has an extension called Go, and right now I'm using a main.go. And in any Go file, it starts with the package name. Like in Java, we have package. Like in C#, we have namespaces. So a package is good so that you can group your code. You can have a logical group, which also will eliminate any name collisions and so on. So let's give it a name. any the first package always starts with the package name main, and there's no semicolon in Go. It actually automatically adds that, but you don't have to add it manually. I don't know why it works that way. I mean, why it needs semicolon automatic semicolon addition. It's just kind of weird to me, but I'm sure that there's a reason that I don't know yet. So you can import different packages, and right now I'm gonna import I think it's a format. It stands for format, I guess. Anyway, it's a FMT package that have methods like println that helps you to write to the to the output window. As you can see, it gives me all this good code completion. So, like in almost any language, you have your main method or function that is the entry point of your application. One of the interesting things about Go is if you do this, if you put the opening curly braces at the next line, or at a new line, whatever, your Go will fail at the compilation. The reason is, as I said before, Go adds semicolons automatically during the compilation, and that will become like that, and this is not correct. Therefore, this guy, the curly braces, has to be at the same line with your function definition for a function signature, which is a signature, by the way, like the function and stuff. So let's create the first variable. As you see, I define a function by saying function, and I'll show you have to return values or accept parameters, but let's start with this guy first. So this is how you define variables. As you may have noticed that the type comes after the variable name. So this is how the syntax works, and they have reasons, for developing your language syntax this way. You can find more information in golang.org website. And unlike normal other languages, you can have a variable like this without assigning it to any values. So you can do this, and that will work. Like for instance, if you are using C#, you cannot have an empty or unassigned variable like this. But Go is different in that way. It actually will it's called zeroing. Will zero your assign your variable automatically, and that will mean an empty string. But for instance, for integer it will be automatically 0. For boolean it will be false. It is like the same thing in like instances. So if you in C# or in Java, you don't have to assign any value to your instance fields. They will be default to their default values. The same logic happens in functions variables as well. So you can also define different variables such as age and now int. And as you see, there are different ints like 32-bit, 64-bit, and the more bits an integer has, the bigger numbers it can hold. By default, it should be in 32 or 16, I guess. I'm not really sure. but I usually use int, and that's pretty much fine for me. You can in fact check. Well, never mind. You can also do this, and I will write something to the output window. So let me show you something really important. Go doesn't like any unused symbols, whether they are variables or imported namespaces and so on. It doesn't like it, so you have to use whatever you define. So for instance, if I save this app, you see that first removed unused namespace imports, actual library imports, package imports, whatever, and now it tells me that a name declared and not used, and static compilation error. I cannot compile my project without fixing this, so I have to fix it. I need to remove it or I need to use it, which is good though. It just helps it to have a cleaner code base. But if I do this, the first thing that you noticed is Visual Code automatically added the namespace, which is real great. You don't have to do it manually. And also, if I save this, now the error message disappeared, because now I use name somewhere and I use FMT package somewhere. So this is an interesting thing happens here. The FMT package, when you import types from FMT package, you use the FMT. So if you import different things, for instance, if you import database.sql, the way you access the members in this SQL or SQL package is you do this, as you see. Now it's like, for instance, in C# in Java or Java, when you import a package, you don't have to prepend the package name to get the classes or other members, whatever. But here in Go, you have to do it. You have to use the namespace, which is usually the last item in the package that you need to use to access the public members of the package. The other thing is, if you look at this list, they all start with uppercase. It means there's no public and private keywords in Go language. The only way you make something public or private, which means you either expose your members to whoever you will use your package, or not expose them, keep them private. So these are the private and public members. So for instance, all those things are public members of the SQL package, but they're private things as well, but I don't see them because they're private, which is good. So how do you make it? How do you make something private and public in Go if you don't have those keywords? For instance, in C#, this is how you would do it. Which is similar to Java. Or if you want to make something public, great, you can just write public. But it is different in Go. But how? Easy. It uses a convention, naming convention. So if something starts with a capital letter, that means it's a public. If you start something with a lowercase, then it is a private. So for instance, if I do now, this is a public thing. If I want access to main, then I will be able to see hello world from the main package, from within a different package. But I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't see the main because it's about private. Why? Because it starts with a lowercase m, which is good though, because usually, we programmers tend to use lowercase things for private members and uppercase things for uppercase letters, names for public members. So why need private or public, two different keywords, extra letters to just indicate that fact, which we already follow those naming convention. I kind of like that simplicity in this language. So let's delete that. So there are different ways you can define a declare variable. The first one was, let's actually try them. Let's say you can do this, and you can say is my developer. The second way is this. It has type inference. I will infer the type by looking at the value. So you don't have to do this. The third one, which is a short syntax, is you don't have to define any var or any type. I will just define the type and assign the value to it. Some people like it, and usually it's preferred way in Go, but you use it if you don't assign a value immediately, or if you want to follow a convention where things are explicit, then you can use the first way, and then you can type this. But if you follow those two syntax or two patterns, you have to assign the value at the moment you declare your variable. Otherwise, it won't know what type it is, and it will fail. Unlike this guy, it will not fail if you don't assign a value to it, because you already define the full syntax with the type name. So it will just default to whatever default is for strings or whatever type you are using for your variable. So let's go and explain more about functions. So the function have parameters, can have parameters, or can have return values. And functions in Go, they're kind of different. Why? Let's look at them. You can have a function like this, which simply accepts 3 parameters: first name, last name, and age. And we still follow the same syntax, which is type comes after the name. Name also known as identifier. So any, like a class name, a method name, a function name, a variable name, they're all called identifiers in programming. So which is good, and you can simply use say this. Great. But how about returning values? I mean, this is very obvious, which is very known if you are programming already. You know how to pass arguments or parameters in. So what's the difference between parameters and arguments, by the way? Most people don't know it, but the thing is, the parameter, this is the parameter. These are the parameters. They're the definitions. But the values you pass in place of those parameters, it's called argument. So for instance, if I call this actually I'm older than that, but never mind. So these are arguments. These are parameters. This is the difference. One is value, the other is the type definition. Actually, yeah, the variable, whatever, the parameter. So these are not parameters, these are arguments. Okay. So let's return something. This is one of the first ways that you can return. And that basically returns a string, but what if we return an int? Okay, never mind, it doesn't give me anything. But there are other ways. Remember, Go functions can return multiple values. Yeah, you don't have to return a class or a dictionary or something if you need to return, or a list. If you need to return multiple values, Go supports them naturally. So you can say this. The first thing I return is string, and the second thing is an int. And I can simply do this. And that will do it. Or you can use, if you have variable names for them. Then you could have simply do these. So it is awesome, right? There's one more variation to this guy. You can do this. Actually. How about that? And once you do that, all you have to do is just do, and that's all. Because, by the way, you need to do this because you can't declare. You can't declare the same variables twice. You already declared it where? Here, as a return value or return parameter. And now we're returning this. You can have as many return parameters as you want. It's good though, but how do you use it? Here, it's a very simple way. You would say, you can use whatever name you like, so I will use my name, and age. Here we go, this is how I use it. Of course, I'm using short syntax, but you can use the longer one, which is this guy. Yeah, I can't do this because it has to be. Yeah. So this is this, but I prefer shorter syntax. If you look at something, I don't need this guy. I don't need this. I don't need this. All I extra need this column, and that will solve everything. All right. Let's cut it here because it's already been like 24 minutes. And the next videos, if I can have time and if I see support, next time I'll go ahead and record the second course in Go language, and we'll look at structs and more like complex types. And in Go, these are just very simple basics that you can learn. But yeah, it's an ASMR, so I hope you guys fall asleep already, and you get enough tingles to relax. Thanks for listening to me, and I hope it's a useful course. And please do not forget to subscribe and like the video, and wait for the next videos. Thanks.